Two. Os everyone. Os, welcome to the Kyokushin Shuffle and welcome to an introduction of the Japan Chronicles. Thank you so much for joining us. This is an exciting part of this series that I wanted to give to everyone out there, but more so couldn't be done than my good friend here, Shihan Sean O'Connell. Shihan, thank you so much for joining us. We cannot wait for this series. How are you today?
Os, thanks, Sensei. Yeah, good. Good. Nice balmy 10 degrees here in Japan. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, I got the hoodie on and just keeping warm. But yeah, no, it's still the end of winter here. So
Right.
a few cold days, still a bit thereabouts, not like the hot weather you've got it going on over there.
Well, if I'm lathered in a bit of a sweat, I'm in my little studio box here, and it is 34 degrees out here in Melbourne today, and the sun's out. It looks nice and dark here, but that's how I like it. But if you start seeing me lather up a bit, it's good.
Right.
It's good. But for your sake, look, for the listeners out there, I've just been chatting to Shihan and saying, look, to get a bit more of an introductory side of you, many people know of you, obviously, but there are some that may not. And in building this series, this is a very, very focused educational part for many of us. As I reached out to you over the last couple of years, and your support and your generosity and your time for many of us in the Kyokushin world. But this time around, you and I have always had some banter back and forth in some fun ways, and we want to keep it that way. We want to still keep the spirit of that alive in that brotherhood and sisterhood that we have in Kyokushin. But there is a key part here that we want to get to know you a bit more, a little bit better. I feel respectfully that you have so much to offer in this platform of just conversation and knowledge. So where do we find you? You're obviously in Japan, but giving everyone a little bit of a take, and the floor is yours.
All right. Okay. Well, I think we did the Kyokushin Shuffle
yes.
talk. What was it? Close on 3 years ago now, 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
That was great. Went into a bit of detail there. Thanks for the kind introduction. So where am I? I'm based in central Japan. So if you're familiar with Tokyo, that's up in the middle of the main island. You've got Osaka, another big city, a bit further down south.
Yep.
And I'm sort of smack in the middle in a city called Nagoya.
Yep.
And I've been here since 1995.
Wow.
As I said in that initial sort of Kyokushin Shuffle chat we did 2.5 years ago, sort of a bit of an introduction to myself. I was born in England, but we moved to New Zealand when I was about 5. Went through to university there, studied Japanese at high school. That got me to Japan as an exchange student in 1986, spent a year in Yokohama. And the world sort of changed for me since, from then.
No doubt.
In terms of my karate, it was sort of the classical karate kid story. I was bullied at school,
right.
4 eyes, small, and
funny,
easy
but not
target.
funny.
Watched the Karate Kid and thought, hey, that's the solution.
Yep.
Started off in Seido Juku, so
cool.
one of the original branch offs of Kyokushin, so Nakamura Kaicho. So I was sort of aware of Kyokushin through that because a lot of the history was covered, and came to Japan, joined a high school karate club, and that was traditional karate, so semi-contact. It was full on. It was 5 days a week. It was a traditional Wado-ryu style.
Oh, yeah.
Did that 5 days a week from 3:30 to 5:30. As soon as school finished, we were in the dojo going about. Went back to New Zealand and sort of went a different route with my karate and went with a more sort of holistic, blended, people may not be familiar outside of Australia and New Zealand, but a style called Zendo Kai. I did that for a while. But there was something about my time with Seido Juku and learning about Kyokushin that sort of got me eventually into a Kyokushin dojo. And 30 plus years on, I'm still doing it. And it's been a great journey so far. Full-time job, I work as a professor at a Japanese university here, sort of dealing with multicultural studies.
Gotcha.
That's what all of my sort of post-grad research was about, looking at how foreigners and Japanese work together in the workplace, how they communicate, and people like me that are bilingual and somewhat bicultural, what adjustments they make, that kind of thing. So that's my full-time gig. Wasn't always that. I haven't been an academic. I still don't really regard myself as an academic anyway, but started off in the tourist industry after university, using my Japanese as a tour guide in New Zealand. Later became a branch manager of a Japanese travel company. That was Japanese, immersion. It was 9 to 5 or longer hours.
Yeah.
Majority of my staff were Japanese. And that acted as a springboard. Came back to Japan in 95. The tourist industry wasn't really that open to foreigners working in it here at that stage. And so I went the translation interpreting route. And that sort of then led to a couple of part-time gigs at a university teaching, translating and interpreting basics, and then found I like teaching and made a career of it. So there you have it.
That is cool. I appreciate the short side of that, but isn't that an epic chapters of your life and going forward? I appreciate you sharing that, and I hope the listeners get a bit of an understanding now, because you and I have gone back and forth now. And for those that are listening, Shihan, Sean and I, Shihan has helped a lot of our my masters in interpretation and in qualifying certain questions and so forth for a long time. And you and I, we go back a long time to certain world tournaments, and our relationship in just being a part of the ANZ frat there and having a good old time. But over the last couple of 3 to 6 months, we've been in contact, and respectfully, I was starting to go, look, I know there's a window here when I get back into the shuffle, and I wanted your involvement in some capacity, because I felt the need for many of us, Western side, to clear certain questions, certain things, confusion, so many topical things. And this was the platform. And bit by bit, we were chatting back and forth. And then, I gladfully got to your acceptance in, hey, can we have a chat and then move something forward here, which will be recorded, which will be on file, which will be for all to listen to. And again, it was on the proviso, though, that, it's not every week. We can't get Shihan Sean every week. We can't get me every week. I'm flat out as well. So we aim to do anywhere between, for those out there, one every 3 weeks or one a month, depending on time and scheduling. Shihan Sean has got some really cool concepts and ideas, which is fantastic, which we'll share obviously now. But for those in understanding, your comments and your feedback is obviously going to be important. Shihan Sean is across many organizations, different groups and understandings. So, he's got the knowledge there. So Shihan, share with some of us, now that this platform is yours as much as a co-host in this Japan Chronicles, what you felt when I guess tapped you on the shoulder there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it couldn't have come at a better time. I mean, we've got this sort of vast ocean of information on, YouTube. We've got the likes of Shihan Terry and Senpai Scott doing their real talk, which is a great avenue for what they're talking about and the topics they bring up in a more sort of universal sense. However, like you've said, I'm fortunate enough to be here located in Japan. And I mean, my Kyokushin journey started originally here when I was over here on a working holiday in 1991, and I joined Hasegawa Soshi's dojo there. And then going back to New Zealand, I was, lucky enough to be accepted into the Christchurch dojo there under Graham Gavigan at the time. And I mean, I must mention him because really he's influenced my journey, my Kyokushin journey. He's helped me make sense of it all over the years. And that's added as a, that's added to my sort of, toolbox, so to speak, in interpreting things. So, after spending some time training in Kyokushin in New Zealand, I then came back here to Japan. We were all originally part of, what is called Aiko 1, so the Matsuri group at the time. Trained with the dojo here in Nagoya. At that stage, Hasegawa Soshi had already broken away from Aiko 1, but because New Zealand was still part of it, I joined them. So But then, things happened, things changed in New Zealand as well. And that was always the organization I wanted to remain loyal to. So following where they were going, I don't like to say jump ship, but looked at what the other options were so I could act as that bridge between, and my first focus was acting as that bridge between New Zealand and Japan, and then later with the likes of Kyoshi, Jimmy and stuff, it became more of a Anzac sort of realm. And lo and behold, 2004, by that stage I'd rejoined with Hasegawa Soshi, and so that was the Rengo Kai at the time, the Japanese, the union faction or branch.
Yes.
So that acted as a perfect way to blend more sort of relationships between Australia, New Zealand, and Japan.
Right.
And so based on the background, I was hauled in as an interpreter at different meetings, at the tournaments. We've met I think the first time we met was 2008.
Correct.
The second Union World Cup in Okinawa.
Yes.
So yes, I mean, I've been privy to a lot of things, both out in the trenches, so to speak, and behind the scenes. And there's some things we can talk about throughout this show. But what I've found over the years is that, there's been a kind of a bit of a distance created, not purposely, not intentionally, but, there's a lot of secondhand information going around.
Correct.
And it can be misinterpreted. And plus, there's a limited amount of focus. So, I mean, hopefully what we're doing, and with the viewers' input, and I can't stress this enough, anyone watching, if there's certain things about the Japanese Kyokushin scene they want to know more about, or they've heard a rumor, they've heard some news, but they want to get the information on the ground. I have access to all of that through my experience. What I don't know, I can easily contact all of the people that I have different relationships spanning a wide number of factions, both Japanese and also, the foreigners that are training here as well. The likes of Todd Reeves.
Yep.
Although he's not Kyokushin, is, probably one of the most knowledgeable people outside of the Kyokushin world who knows what he's talking about. And he's very objective about it as well. Very clinical, very precise. So it'd be great to get him on it.
Absolutely.
Stage. But also, like we've been talking about, what I'd like to do is maybe tap into some of the Japanese people training. I have a lot of relationships that I can utilize there. Unreal. That we can get them on and really do a deep dive into their daily Kyokushin life, their experiences throughout the years. That's not only Hasegawa Soshi, who, I was just talking to him a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
I've got him on speed dial, so that's fine. So that's good. But, the likes of Takuma Koketsu, who's, his lieutenant, so to speak, who's doing some great things on his own on YouTube, etc. and so forth. But also, others like some of the elders, that don't really get a platform to talk, So, we went through a long list of, we brainstormed some ideas. So just to give everyone a heads up, there's plenty of people we can sort of tap on the shoulder and say, hey, you want to get on for a 20-minute chat? I can act as the interpreter. They can speak Japanese. I can do the transcribing. So by the time we edit it and put it on, you'll be able to listen to it, but read the subtitles at the same time, so that we're making, maximum use of that 30 minutes. And like you said, that 30 minutes is key. So it's something that someone can watch on the train as they go home.
Correct.
They've got a spare 30 minutes and, they just want to wind down and listen to someone else. Then hopefully we can answer, like I said, the questions or the things that people want to know. So, I mean, get on the comments and say, this is what I've heard this. I want to know more about this.
Yeah. Never
heard Japanese instructors talking about this. Want to know a bit more of this history. Heard this rumor. Is it true? There's delicate ways to ask and get the information, and that's where the cultural part comes in. We all speak Kyokushin. We speak different languages. but the common language we all speak is Kyokushin. So if we can sort of, I guess, standardize that a bit, like we're all speaking the same Kyokushin language, and we're all sharing the information from the horse's mouth, rather than speculation.
Yes.
Then I think it will go a long way to sort of deepening that understanding a bit more.
Perfectly said. Have a break there. Perfectly said, and that is a great segue in where I was wanting this to head: the educational side, the friendship side of everyone being clear across so many years. We're nearly approaching 60 years of Kyokushin, and past, present, future conversations are integral to keeping the flame alive, and that's a massive passion of mine, as you know full well. And it did take, we have had these concepts and ideas in the past and how to do it. So, we're finally getting to it. Time is of the essence in a way, in respectful to guests and arrangements. So we're going to do our absolute best. Full-time job, dad of 3, Shihan Sean, busy, time differences. A lot of people need to, I guess, respect that, and we will do absolute best. But you can see the intention here. That's key, and that's why we wanted to have this open, first chat, so everyone can understand. The aim at the end of the day is to help as many people as we can, get some cool people like a Sensei Shihan Todd on, and so on, and start to chop and change the norm of just the standard questions. We've done that with guests that I've done. That was great. That was fun. Now this series has to kind of find its own way, its own legs. But you on the ground there for so long, and even Shihan Cameron Quinn put a comment today about you saying, well, this is going to be great. This would be awesome to have you on and explore a little bit more. Shihan, the part that I guess I'd like to just, over the next 10 minutes that we've got left, you've trained Kyokushin for how long now?
All up 33 years, I guess it is. Yeah.
33 years.
90 was, when I jumped ship. Yeah.
Shihan, so you got your 5th dan. When did you go for your 5th dan? And I'm sure the 5th dan in New Zealand, give everyone a little bit of a brief on that.
Yeah. So left New Zealand as IQ, as a first Q, and came to Japan, did my first 4 Yudansha gradings here. That's something we can talk about, the difference between the Yudansha gradings here and in other parts of the world. Yeah. And then, yes, I was asked to do my Godan in New Zealand because I hadn't done a Yudansha grading there. And it just seemed right, Again, Shihan Gavagan, who's been a massive mentor of mine over the years. Everyone knew me. I had the relationships there. I was involved in different parts of the organization over there, but I really needed to stand on the floor and amongst my peers there and do the hard yards. And it was a day of tough love. You've done the 50 man, you know what it's like. I did mine in 2016. That was my Godan grading in March. So it's coming up on 7 years now. Still got dodgy ribs from it. It was a pretty horrendous day.
It turned into a
it was a camp.
I was enjoying the hearing
South
that
Island camp. It was and I thought March, that's cool, it'll be a bit cooler. Oh no, they decided to turn on a close to 30-degree day. I was as nervous as hell standing on the floor amongst 20 odd Yudansha that the likes of Pete Parson, who's got fists the size of boulders.
Yeah.
And a Hizagiri that can rip through, basically a concrete wall. Yeah. I mean, I could name them all, and they're all, staunch, very capable Yudansha throughout the MOK-NZ organization there. So they all turned up, and no doubt. A pulled hamstring and 2 broken ribs later, managed to get through the day. It wasn't the tidiest of performances, but tough love dished out on the day, I guess, finally helped me earn my place there.
Nice.
Although if I could go back and do it again, I'd do it and do it differently. However, got through it. It was an accomplishment that wasn't my own. It was, a product of everyone.
Oh, well said. Yeah.
And I mean that's the whole training philosophy, isn't it? That if we don't have other people that are willing to stand beside us, in front of us, we don't have the opportunity to push ourselves. And I hold that philosophy, very dearly to my heart even today, that we tend to forget that, we've got white belts, blue belts, yellow belts, whatever color, but if they don't choose to turn up, we don't have the opportunity to share our experience, and I mean, the word sensei, if you break it down, it's two Japanese characters that mean born before. So the sen means before, sei is also a character that means born. So you've just gone through something someone else hasn't had the opportunity to yet. So, a lot of people love these titles, and some, get big heads because they're a Shihan or whatever, and I'm not going to go into that.
No.
What I'm talking about is what value you add to that. And you can't add any value to it unless you've got people that are willing to make the same commitment by turning up and training. And that's that's a mentality that is very apparent here in Japan as well as around the world. So yeah. Godan was 7 years ago now, but
I asked you that, and in sharing that, because my last episode that I did for the Strongest Karate series was on the 100-man and 50-man. Now, we will tap into it. Obviously, these are the really cool stuff that we can utilize you for. But what I'm putting you on the spot here. I didn't even give you a heads up on it, but in just conversation of just this now, the 50-man kumite, how is it, the perception here in Australia is it perception, meaning that the history of it is strong. We have some really good, strong candidates that, and karatekas that have done it. In New Zealand, I'm sure it's the same, but I was seeing, if you, again, not to put you on the spot, but grasping how you're familiar with it and how Japan see it in any way. Could you answer something like that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I mean, this is a bit of a tidbit, or maybe an example of what we can delve more, into in later episodes. But I mean, I guess after doing Yudansha gradings here in Japan and being part of others overseas, etc., and doing my Godan grading in New Zealand, the grading syllabus is a lot different. You might be aware, that they have the small pieces of wood that you have to, little chunks of wood that you have to hold on to. And once you drop those, here it's basically, I wouldn't call it tournament fighting, but it's pretty close to it. You're awarded wazari, ippon, etc., and so forth. If you drop the piece of wood, that counts as, a minus point, etc., and so forth. So there's a record of how many you win, how many you draw, how many you lose. So there is that evaluation process in place. But I'd say the main difference is here that up until the KUMITE part of the grading, it's very much stock standard, no matter what dan grading you're going for. You do your kihon, you do your idogeko, you do your stamina. They might throw in a couple of things like your jumping, spinning kicks to hit a tennis ball in the dojo, whatever. You do your handstands, and that's the set piece for every grading. Whereas overseas, we tend to incorporate things like how have you grown as a yudansha, with self-defense as part of the curriculum.
Correct.
Different sort of yudansha only techniques tested, etc. That's not done per se here. They're saying how much you've polished the basics from one dan grade to the other, so you know what you're going into. And then the KUMITE is all to that set sort of structure where you are deducted a point if, or there is a wazari against you or whatever, if you cop a kick in the head that doesn't knock you out, but the fight will be stopped there and then. So even though it's a minute and a half, if you're going, like you see Matsui and Kancho with his Yondan grading that's on YouTube.
Yes,
you can see all those fights don't go for a minute and a half because he's clipped someone in the face. He might have knocked them out. So you go in with this strategy of how can I stop this person in the least amount of time?
Yes.
shortest amount of time. So, you go in and you'll try and score a wazari equivalent sort of technique, or you might try and knock someone out if you've seen an opening. And that gives you a bit of a buffer. That's the fight done. Next fight, next fight, next fight. So just a different approach, that way.
I think there's
probably the comparison. And plus, the other thing I would say is that, to me, a Yudansha grading is about survival overseas. Your grit, your determination, that usno seishin is tested. So it might not be the prettiest display of your karate, but it's not the physical side that's just being tested. It's your mental toughness as well, and you're willing to get, pull yourself back up off the ground and stay in that fight for that full minute and a half and keep on going. So they're testing two different things here, and I think that's something that's probably not really compared enough, but I'd say that'd be the difference.
Spot on. Perfect little segue there. I appreciated that. Nailed it. And it was something, I bet you, if I'd finished after this chat, I would have gone, shit, I should have asked him that while I had him. But that is, listeners, a perfect example of what Shihan Sean will be able to deliver. And I'm sure, respectfully, both of us can talk underwater. There's no doubt about that, on this passion and topic of Kyokushin karate and martial arts in general. So, Shihan, we're nearly wrapping it up. I like to keep these in a nice 30-minute avenue. I feel like you just said that listeners out there are going to grow more and more, know they've got 30 minutes before a training, can listen to it on YouTube in their car. But in the meantime, we can't wait. I sincerely can't wait to do more episodes with you. We will do our absolute best with the guests and so on, but let's get some questions out there. Let's get some listener, the people that are watching, put your comments, be open, be free, non-political, please. Nothing crap that brings in shit energy, as I call it. We want really good energy. Reason I wanted Shihan Sean months and months and months ago is because I love his energy, love his passion for it all, and vice versa. We just we get along well in that. So Shihan, we can't wait to have more chats with you. We can't wait to see some of these comments. But is there anything you want to add before we kick off?
Just repeat what you've said. Basically, we've got a lot of ideas. We want to interview some high profilers, maybe some less high profilers, people that, but like you said, this is as much the community's show as it is ours.
Correct.
It's a bit like training. Without your input, without your reaction, we've got nothing to gauge, the sort of worth of what we're doing. And we want to add value to it. But I guess that only comes from getting as much feedback from the listeners as well. And the wonderful thing about most of the factions here in Japan now is that they've chosen to play in the same larger sandpit in a more sort of, I guess, friendlier way now. There's a lot more interaction between most of them. If you've looked at recent footage, you'll see that Masuda Shihan I think he's in Bulgaria at the moment.
Yes.
With the KWU. And the Senshi sort of realm that's being created, Filio Shihan, etc., have joined that now. Narushima Shihan, who was one of Matsui Kancho's lieutenants for a long time. You just look up Ryu Narushima on YouTube and you'll see the beauty of his karate. He's gone back to run his father's dojo. So he maintains a friendly relationship with Aikyo One.
Right.
But he's actually in Chile at the moment.
Yeah.
And I think it's with KWU.
Yeah.
And so we've got these people that are willing to, interact with non-political people and train and share what they've experienced and pass it on. That, with the right approach, I'm quite, sort of confident that we can actually set up some interviews with them and get a balanced, objective view of what's going on, rather than it just coming from me. This is what I've found out.
Yeah.
I want to get, the real voice there on. So if people have got questions, then it's great, because that helps us set up an interview that answers those questions, rather than us just running with what we think people might be interested in.
Awesome. There you have it. Exciting, isn't it? So I know probably after this, I'm already excited to do 3 more episodes with you, but we got our time in here, and I can't push more of it, your time or mine. So thank you so much, Shihan. We cannot wait for 2023 and what we can put out to everyone around the world here. So thank you for joining us. We look forward to the next episode. Thanks everyone for listening. Thanks, Shihan and Sean. Let's keep it up. Please comments, please put it in, start sharing it. And the best part of this, I think I like the way Shihan just put it there. It's more of a community show, like we're training and involving each other in and growing together. A big us to you all. Shihan.
Us.